Hello everybody. I want to show you how to get your project all set so we can add flux to it, put some solder in on it, and be able to get this project done. So just kind of sit back and kind of try to remember what I'm going to be showing you. So first off, you have the entire thing. In terms of how everything is sanded down, it should be done by this point. Okay, so it's all stacked accordingly. The second thing is you want to make sure you have this, very, very much specific to how you want it when it's all done. Because right now I have this flame here. If I turn it this way, this is kind of the way it's supposed to look as well. Now, which is fine that you have it that way. So a big thing is a lot of times coins are meant to be flipped like this. Where if you look at like a penny or a nickel or a quarter or whatever, and this is like Abraham Lincoln's head, you flip it over, and then there's the building behind it. That's, not upside down because you flipped it that way. But if you are more wanting to like this, just make sure it's centered, make sure it's exactly how you want it. It'll make this process go a little bit easier. So first thing is I'm going to kind of lay these out now in terms of how I want them kind of placed. I'm going to take my bottom one here first, and I have no floating pattern, so I don't have to worry about that. If you do have a floating, remember it should be on one side only, can't really be on both. And I'm going to take this flux, which is a way to kind of keep the metal clean, and allow the solder to kind of be able to flow nicely around everything. Okay, so I have that. And then I'm going to start taking these bits of solder. So we've already had these already kind of cut up for you. Now I do have, in the container that these are, I do have tweezers if you want to use these to kind of place them around a little bit easier. And you might ask me, well, how many do I need? It's hard to tell, everyone's a little bit different. This one right here, this piece right here is probably too big. This might be a good one for inside the flame, but I would try to keep some smaller ones, around the outside like this. It's a little on the big side too. It's kind of the fun part. Okay, I want to get one more right there. Okay, so I feel like this is going to be pretty successful because my big goal is I just want to do my best job to get as solid of an outside that I can. Now I'm going to take I'm going to kind of line this up because I know this student really wants to make sure that the bottom of this really does a nice job of lining up with the bottom of that. So we're going to do the best job we can. I'm going to take this, same thing. We add that flux onto here. It helps keep that metal clean. Okay, I'm going to set that directly on top of this. I'm going to add the flux on this side. Try not to push the metal around at all. Really making sure that outside edge is flux because that's my goal, is to get that in. We do have issues if your design itself is all bent. So hopefully you do keep this, nice and flat. If not, there's things we can do. They're not always effective, but we do our best to get them done. So I'm going to get some more out because I want to see if I get some smaller ones. And I'm going to go around the outside edge. Now, it's okay in terms of grade-wise, if you end up seeing some little bit of solder pop through. Ideally, you don't, but this is a silver, so it's nice that it will match the solder. But a lot of times we end up using a Dremel tool on the inside to texturize it. So then you don't even notice it anyways. So at some point we'll get into coloring. And maybe even after watching this video, I might have another one if I actually spend the $600 I need to get a right kiln to be able to do that. But we just don't have that right now because you use an enamel. If you get into fishing, I don't know what that stuff is. And that works pretty well. And that's the colorants that we use. So I need to be able to bring that up to a slow temperature and drop it again. So now looking at this, I know the flame is in here. So this is where I would grab a bigger one. Stick that right there. You know, I could even put another one right here. Actually, I flipped that around. You know, if yours is more intricate, you know, again, you just kind of guess, because that's the best we can do. Now I'm going to take this. Now I know it's going to go down like that, but I need to flip this over and flux this in. So you get this all prepped, and then you can call me over, and I can either use the torch or you can use it. I just want to be there when you do use it, okay? Okay, so that's all set. Now I know the student, again, wants this as much up and down as possible. Okay, so this is set. So we're going to take this over to our area where we use the torch, and then we'll go to the next step. Okay, now that we have our project over here, I did take a few of these and ended up stacking them, so it's just a little bit higher. But I do have a lot of sawdust around everything. And before we start using an open flame around something so highly combustible, it probably would be a good idea to actually vacuum the area up a little bit. So underneath here, I do have a vacuum cleaner. So I'm going to kind of pull this off, get the hose out, turn it on. Okay, now that I got that all cleaned up, it should be safe to go ahead and use it. So we keep our torch over in the yellow cabinet. So you want to grab one of the taller ones that has the self-igniting on it, and then we should be able to kind of get set up for the next step. Okay, now that I got it out, it's not in the tall yellow cabinet, it is in the shorter one that's over there. I have this, I have my project, and I do need a little bowl of water, like this one. So I'm going to take this, set it over here, because after we get done with the whole project, I want to be able to have some place where I can cool it down quickly. So I'm going to try to slide the camera, get as close as I can, and I want to get it down so you can see the sandwich, and I want to try to zoom in so you can see the gaps. Because when we turn this on, we're going to be taking this, and I'm going to go in this kind of a motion as I'm heating it up. So I just don't want to keep it really close. I want to keep it a little on the higher side, and I'm just going to be going in a circular motion, because you do want to try to heat the metal up as evenly as possible. But I'm watching that sandwich to just melt, you know, and to get rid of those gaps. Okay, so I'm going to try to get the camera set up so you can see that. Okay, so now I think I have this set so you can see the gaps, you know, that are in there. I also want to make sure that I have, you know, something I can grab a hold of it with. So I have this tongs, or there might be something else here, so you'll be able to find something. And we're going to heat this up, and I'm kind of going to go around in a circle again and just watch that so it just falls. So I'm going to turn this on. You can hear it going. Just push that little button. Now I'm going to slowly go around the outside edge. And that solder has a much lower melting point than the copper, or the brass, or the nickel silver you're working with. You can see it start dropping down, waiting for that final one on the bottom to melt enough. Dropped on the side closest to me, it dropped on your side. And still waiting for that last, I think it did drop. Nope, not yet. Yep, there it went. So I know that the solder on, the way you shut it off is you just turn that knob. Now I know that that it melted because it dropped in all those spots. If you notice that there's still a gap, you know, there could be two things. One, it didn't melt all the way, or your metal might have been bent, you know, and that's a problem. What we end up trying to do is we might set something heavy like a brick on top of this, or something like this even, and pressing down on there and hoping that we don't shift the metal, but we always end up shifting the metal no matter what. Now, I do take some of this. Let me get some of this, bring it over here so you can see it better. I do take some of this, and I add some water to it. Because then I know that it's completely, I shouldn't say, it's not cool, I wouldn't grab it right now. But it's enough that it shouldn't shift it all up. So I'm going to bring this over to the edge, grab that, throw that in the water there, and at that point it is cool enough. Okay. So it does look like this did a pretty decent job. It looked like it might have slid a little bit because let's see if I can get that this other way. Use that behind there. So you can kind of see that it's a little off center, but I don't think it's a big deal. You can see that it's a little tapering that way and the bottom is tapering the other way. So it looks like it did slide a little bit. But I'm going to show you kind of what we're going to do next, and then we go back we'll go back and talk about it, okay? Okay, the next step on this is that I'm going to go back to using this, is I want to round off the edges that are on here until the entire thing is silver, okay? So I'm going to be setting this down here like this, and I'm going to be going around here until everything is kind of lined up. Again, make sure if you don't have glasses on, make sure you put those on. Again, if you want to put goggles on, that's up to you as well. But if you don't have anything, you got to at least put something on. Okay, I'm going to show you what's kind of going on right now is that I have this first top layer almost done. I can still see a little bit of this being dark. So I know that I haven't gone far enough yet. Okay, now there you can see that it is shiny from one side to the other side. So I know that this area right here is all done. Then as I go along here, then I can see that it's not lined up again. So I go around the entire thing until it's all even like a coin. Okay, so now we're back at the table where we have our Dremel tools. So if you don't remember how to use the Dremel tools, again, go back and watch that video. But I'm going to get my green one because the green one has the ones that are the most common, unless I change it. I tell you right now. So I have this all set. I did the outside. I haven't sanded this part down yet. And I can do that now or I can do that later. It doesn't matter if I do this first or if I do the sanding first, okay? If I do the sanding, remember you start at you already did this once, so it shouldn't take that long. So just, you can start at your 400 or go to your 600, do that tape table again, unless you feel like you can hold this good enough and use your sticks. And you can do that and then get it all polished up. And the black stuff will kind of get, caught in the corners here. And remember, we are going to go in and kind of etch out the silver part, okay, to make it more textured. So that is kind of optional, but there's no way that with our tools that we have to be able to go in and get everything nice and shiny all over the place. So texturing is what we typically do. So I'm going to use this Dremel tool. Again, I'm going to grab my key, take this bit off because I don't want this one. I think the circle ones do work well. So I'm going to grab this one right here. Again, any of the Dremel tools will work. You just got to find the right tip. And this is kind of for a larger area. So I'm going to turn this on. And I'm going to get the large areas first before I switch to a different tip. Now I'm only going to do this one side. So I got that first part done. You can see that this is the side that I did it on, that it gets a lot more shiny. It is more textured now. I was doing some circular motions. I was kind of working with that. I was kind of pressing down a little on the hard side to make sure it doesn't bump off, you know, and then scratch this area. Now I'm going to switch over to something smaller. You know, I have tips that are like this. Hopefully you can see that. I also have, here's another tool. I also have tips that are like this. Either one of them usually do work. This one, if you look at it, it's kind of glittery. It's actually meant for glass because you can do glass engraving with these diamond tips. They're not worth like a lot of money because they have diamond dust on them. So don't go and steal them from me, hoping you'll get rich. But they are nice. And I want something that's small enough that I can get in and kind of get those areas in a little bit better. Okay, so now you can see that this side here is completely done. I did go over the middle a little bit more with that same tool to kind of get a texture that's a little similar because I didn't like that it was a little different than I wanted it to be. Now I would do the other side and I would get in and do all these small pieces when you're all done with it. Again, you might want to polish this first and then do this because then you'll use that to kind of clean the whole thing out. Again, when you do polish it, remember you can put soap on here. Use a toothbrush to get that black polishing agent out of there, and then kind of go from there.